This is the Dr. Katherine Albrecht Show.
Raise a signal flag on a bare hilltop. Call up an army against Babylon. Raise a signal flag on a bare hilltop. Call up an army against Babylon. Wave your hand to encourage them. Wave your hand to encourage them. As they march into the palaces of the high and mighty. I, the Lord, have dedicated these soldiers for this task. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. And they will rejoice when I am exalted.
Hi there, Katherine Albrecht here. Glad to be with you. Today I want to talk about food because, we just had Thanksgiving. For those of you who are listening live, it is the week after Thanksgiving 2025. Hard to believe we're in 2025 already, but it is. And hard to believe it's already December, but it is. The thing I want to talk to you about today is something that is absolutely giving me the chills, and it is the fact that Frankenfoods, which have long been on our kind of the back of our mind and our radar, have not only made it to market, but are now about ready to explode onto our plates. There's really three things I want to talk about. One of them is the fact that much of the food that we eat and consider just staples, like bleached flour and sodas and Cheetos, Doritos, things that might be in your, at a Christmas party in a bowl and you're just picking them up and eating them. Well, those are banned as toxic substances across Europe and in other countries. That is the first thing I want to talk about, is why is it that other countries are considering not just unhealthy, but literally toxic, and banning certain foods from the stores, from their diets, from being even imported into the country, and levying huge fines against the stores and the companies that sell it or make it available even in restaurants. Why is it that food is considered everyday fare for us, and yet across Europe there are literally scores of products that we eat every day that are considered toxic in other countries because they're toxic, not just considered toxic, they really are toxic. Other countries seem to care about the health of their citizens in a way that the U.S. seems to care a lot more about corporate profits. And that is one thing I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about is the rise of something extremely disturbing called cell-cultured meat. Cell as in cellular cultures, made in laboratories. The process for producing actual meat, muscular structure based on animal muscle cells taken from animals and being grown in a substrate in a laboratory, and then being turned into actual food products and sold to Americans. This stuff has to be incredibly heavily labeled. It's very regulated and restricted in other countries, but here in the US, the FDA has approved it. Hooray! So we're about ready to receive. This can be put in soups. This could be, I'm also going to read you a horrible quote from a Campbell Soup executive about the awful things they said about their customers and about the meat that goes into their soups. That's the kind of place you're likely to see this. If you thought texturized vegetable protein and soy-based meat substitutes in certain foods were bad, you ain't seen nothing yet, because what we're about to get is a rash of lab-grown Franken meat that is actual living tissue, but it did not come from an animal. It came from a laboratory. So that's my second disgusting and hideous story I want to tell you about. The third one that has me really creeped out is the fact that the CRISPR gene editing technology is now being applied to vegetables and produce that can wind up on our plates and is expected to explode into the supermarkets in the coming year and does not require any labeling. So if we put all of that together, it makes you really have to stop and wonder, why is it? Well, first of all, why is it that Americans are so sick? Why are we all overweight, depressed, anxious, laden with anxiety? Why is it that we all feel terrible all the time? We have inflammation, and our bodies are breaking down on us, and our health is among the worst in the industrialized world. It is really bad. The next question is, if that is being caused by our food, and a whole lot of it is, why is it that the powers that be that are in a position to do something about it are not doing anything about it? Now, I know we do have in Robert Kennedy an advocate who's at least trying to get some of the dyes and some of the toxic products removed, but it's not going nearly far enough. And anyway, so with no further ado, let me dive in and share some of these absolutely horrible stories with you. Let's see. First one I want to start with says over 750 products, candy products, among items seized in Staffordshire. So across England, they actually, in the month of November, went on kind of a raiding spree. They had actual, like, I don't know if they were dressed in quite riot gear with bulletproof vests on or not, but they were close. They had raids in which they went on, police raids into stores, into grocery stores and snack shops and gas station, mini marts and convenience marts, and they confiscated massive quantities of American junk food and gave them huge fines for making this toxic food available. I'm going to read this particular story. Trading standards officers. So, we have ICE. Well, they have the Office of Trading Standards, which looks at imported goods. Have seized a large quantity of illegal foods and drinks, vapes, and illicit tobacco worth more than, however many pounds British sterling. All right, more than 750 items of imported American candy and drinks containing unauthorized substances were seized. Products confiscated included Mountain Dew, Double Bubble gum, Jolly Rancher gummies, and hard candy, all containing ingredients unauthorized in the UK, including mineral oil, bleached flour, and colorants. Many of the soft drinks seized contain a chemical called EDTA, known to be linked to kidney failure. A second operation the same week saw officers inspecting vehicles for non-compliant foods on some of the country's key roads, including the M6. That's one of their major freeways. All right, now I've got so many problems with this. It's really disturbing to think that they would be stopping vehicles and searching them for illicit food. So that's overreach already right there. But why is that illicit food even being sought? Why are people buying it? Why are people importing it? Why are people eating it? Why are we eating it? And the answer is that that food has been specifically designed to enhance the gustatory, that's your taste buds, the gustatory impact that it has on the human body. And some of it actually contains, what are they called? Excitatory chemicals, which actually stimulate your brain. Stimulate your brain, your gut, your cells, the cells in your mouth, your taste buds, and they make you really want to have more of it. There's a reason why if you buy a bag of Doritos and you think you're just going to eat one, and I'm talking about little small bags, right? You think you're just going to eat one or two, or maybe your friend gets a bag of Doritos and hands you one and you're there going, I wish I could have a second one. Okay, there's a reason for that because it's built in. The sodium guanylate, so many of the different ingredients in there are known to actually cause this kind of a response in the human body and make people crave more of them. So toxic stuff is in our food. It is extraordinarily habit forming. It is an extraordinarily difficult thing to just eat one. Those potato chips, they'd say you can't just eat one. It is, this stuff is being built into our food in the very same way. It reminds me very much of what's happened with social media. I go online because I want to figure out, something really simple like what is the recipe for candied yams? Because I can't call my mom because she's passed away. And I can't find my copy of The Joy of Cooking. So what do? I go online and I look up recipe for candied yams. And while I'm on the page, all around me are videos, and they're videos tailored for me. So they're videos about things I'm interested in. Maybe artificial intelligence is up to some no good thing, and there is a little robot over here who's done something really bad. And I am like, I just want to make my candied yams, but wait a minute, I do a radio show. I better know about that robot. Or I need to know the latest thing that Sam Altman and OpenAI did with ChatGPT. Or I need to know the latest, who knows, maybe technology for studio podcasting. And so it's got all these little things that are designed just like the junk food, just like you go to a party and there's a bowl of Doritos and there's a bowl of this and that and there's a little snacks and the things. And before you know it, you're watching the YouTube videos and you're snacking on the Doritos. All right, that's all designed. It's not our fault. It's really not our fault. It's not our willpower. It's them. All right, stay tuned.
Why are most email programs free? Companies use them as bait to lure people into their system so they can scan their data and sell them to advertisers. It's like a hotel giving out free rooms so they can film people sleeping and then sell the video. You'd never agree to that. StartMail restores your privacy. No one but you sees your sensitive data, and it costs less than a postage stamp a week. StartMail.com. It's email you can trust. Your email is your business, but if it's spied on, hacked, or intercepted, it can fall into the wrong hands. The solution is encryption, a high-tech way to scramble your data so no one can read it. For years, only the technical elite could use this powerful tool until StartMail came along. StartMail not only lets you encrypt the email you send, it encrypts your entire account. Encryption. It's just one more way StartMail.com keeps you safe.
Hi, this is Joe Jaquin, owner of the Patriot Trading Group. I'm sure you're probably aware of the reputations of many of the precious metals dealers here in the Front Range. I talk to customers all the time that know gold and silver are strong investments, that they are a hedge against a volatile economy. But these customers don't know where to buy gold and silver and are very justifiably concerned that they'll get ripped off. So I want to make you this promise. At Patriot Trading Group, there are no commission salespeople. We don't make outbound phone calls. We don't try to upsell you into some scam or package that we created. We don't disclose your information to anyone ever. The majority of our business comes from referrals and long-time repeat customers. If you're looking to learn about or invest in precious metals, give us a call at 800-951-0592 or go to allamericangold.com. That's 800-951-0592 or go to all.
I saw a huge crowd no longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. But I have called you friends. I have called you friends.
All right, I'm back. Glad to be with you guys. Glad to be with my friends here. All right, let me talk about banned foods. And I don't know if I'm going to get to all three of my topics today, but if not, I will do a part 2 tomorrow. I have an article up here. This is from a Harvard nutritionist talking about 4 foods that 4 food ingredients that are toxic, that are in our food supply, that actually make us hungrier and hurt our brains, hijack our brains. They're called excitotoxins. Excitotoxins. And I'm going to put up a link to an article here. Hang on if I can find it. The overview of the excitotoxins. So what are excitotoxins? Hang on. There's my article. Well, I just had it. Let me hit my back button here. All right. Excitotoxin. Well, I'm just going to read to you about the excitotoxins in junk food, but I also have a peer-reviewed medical journal study on excitotoxins as well. So we'll hear it from both sides. But this particular one, Harvard nutritionist, I need to give you the other one first. I really do. Hang on. PubMed. Here we go. Okay, remember PubMed is the National Institutes of Health, pubmed.gov, PUBMED.gov is the place where you can go and look at all of the medical journal research, the actual peer-reviewed published studies that are considered to be accurate, valid, and good science. So this is not just websites with random people spouting off random things, and it's certainly not AI giving you ridiculous nonsense about food, which it's gotten worse at that lately. But this is actually peer-reviewed studies. Not a guarantee that it's true, but it at least meets and checks off the boxes that society currently considers to be the gold standard for research publications. All right, so this is National Institutes of Health. This was published in a journal called Neurotoxicity. I'm going to take this one seriously because that's quite a journal title. Evidence is reviewed pertaining to excitatory neurotoxins, known as excitotoxins for short, encountered in human food supply. The most frequently encountered food excitotoxin is glutamate. Remember that MSG scandal, or I guess the MSG controversy years ago, that it was in Chinese food and it was making certain people feel unwell. And then in recent years, probably in about the last 10 years, people have been saying, oh no, nothing's wrong with MSG. Add it to your food, it's fine. Well, it is an excitatory neurotoxin. I'm going to read you a little bit about it. It freely penetrates certain brain regions and rapidly destroys neurons by hyperactivating the, are you ready, NMDA subtype of GLU receptor. Hypersensitivity of NMDA receptors during development makes the immature nervous system especially sensitive to GLU excitotoxicity. Okay, so this is really, really bad for pregnant women, really, really bad for children, and really, really bad for the elderly. It's not good for any of us, but for those guys, it's off the chart bad. Okay. Elderly consumers are particularly sensitive also to something called domoic acid, a powerful excitotoxic glue analog that activates both NMDA and non-NMDA receptors. There is a high content of domoic acid in shellfish. All right. Recently, this was years ago, but it caused a food poisoning incident that killed elderly victims and caused brain damage and memory impairment. So you have to be careful with that. And then it goes on and on with a bunch about these NMDA receptors and the various things that can cause damage to them and what damaging those receptors does in the human body. It is damages the brain, essentially. It says immature consumers are especially vulnerable to this, and elderly consumers as well. So if you have children, listen up. The last thing in the world your kids should be eating are Doritos, are those super extra flavorful snack foods, because they contain these excitotoxins, and they're built into there because they are very, very, very tempting. Like, you eat them and your brain, it's not just your mouth just doesn't go, those Doritos, man, they're tasty. Those Takis or whatever it might be, they sure taste good. I think I'll put another one on my tongue. It's also making your brain go bananas, like fireworks going off in your brain going, yes, give me more. And it's toxic. It's an excitement in the brain that is literally toxic. And so MSG, not something you want to be having. I read the research that said, it's perfectly healthy. And I actually have a container of literally MSG in my spice cabinet right now. And I don't really use it much, but there are a couple things I'll add it to. And I'm telling you, after reading this, it's going in the garbage. I'm not buying the research that says it's okay, because it's not. All right, now let me read you this Harvard article. All right. From a Harvard nutritionist. Watch out for these toxic food additives. Monosodium glutamate, MSG. It antagonizes, now they've got other reasons here, antagonizes your pancreas into pouring out more insulin. And there's a link to an article on that. And I can post all of this content if you want. This is a hormonal cascade. And what does it do? It makes you hungrier. So if you eat MSG, you will probably wind up with your pancreas doing weird stuff that makes you really hungry. So there's a reason why after you eat junk food, you do not feel full. You might feel sick, you might feel queasy, you might feel like your brain has been through a ringer, because it has, but you probably don't feel full in a satisfied, healthy way like when you have a healthy meal. So there's a reason why Americans are so overweight. There's a reason why we are so just sick all the time, and Europeans aren't. If you go over to Europe, you will not see people walking around weighing 450 pounds through the supermarket. You won't see those little carts you have to drive around because you weigh too much to walk. You won't see that in Europe. And it's not that their lifestyle is that much healthier. They're not exercising more than we are. I've seen studies on that. In fact, in some cases, people who exercise even less than we do, countries with a lower rate of exercise, have a better rate of just overall health and weight control than we do. The thing that's making us fat is, well, in part, it's our technological lifestyle where we're driving instead of walking and all of those things. But the real reason, the bottom line of this, is that we are eating toxic substances that are known to cause weight gain, known to cause inflammation, known to cause brain damage, known to do all of these things, known to cause mood disorders. And yet we look around and go, why are we all so sick? Well, there's a reason for that. All right, next one, and this is a big one, refined flour. Now, I want to make an important distinction. There's an important distinction between food that's not healthy and food that is toxic. Okay, let me make a distinction here. So I'll give you an example of food that's not healthy. Fatty meat. Okay, fatty meat. Let's say that you are cooking a big piece of beef and it's got a ton of fat on it, and that's saturated fat, and you eat that. That's not good for you. That's not the healthiest food in the world for you to be eating. Okay, now let me give you an example of a toxic food, and it's different. A toxic food would be hydrogenated soybean oil. Okay, both of them are fat, both of them are unhealthy, quote unquote, but one of them is unhealthy just because you should be making better food choices and eat it in moderation. One of them is unhealthy because you should not even touch it with a 10-foot pole because it's poison. It's bad for you. Okay, so the hydrogenated vegetable oils, the reason you don't want to touch any hydrogenated oil of any type, ever, if you see the word hydrogenated, throw it away. I will not put it in my mouth. I will not. I would starve first. Is because the hydrogenization process that impacts the oil that they use on here. It takes a liquid oil. They discovered this back in, I want to say the 1920s or 30s. They discovered that if they have a liquid oil and they bubble, they put little tubes in it and bubble hydrogen gas through it, that the liquid oil turns kind of like Crisco. It turns white. It turns hard like butter. It changes the texture, and it also changes the shelf life of it, because hydrogen is, when you put it on an oil, it creates a stable bond on the oil that makes it so it doesn't spoil. And so if you hydrogenate, I don't know, whatever you do, run hydrogen through oil to make it hydrogenated, then you will be able to extend the shelf life of the products that contain it. So between about 1940, 50, and I would say probably 1990, 95-ish, we had I would say the majority, it seems, of products that were made with oil were made with hydrogenated oils, because we didn't know how bad it was for people. What we've since discovered is that when you put a hydrogen molecule onto an oil molecule, you create a substance that exactly fits into the nervous system of the human body. So you've got we've all seen the diagrams of the nerves and the little sheath around it. In order to keep that flexible, it has little receptors on it that receive the oil molecules out of our diet. And those oil molecules go in there and click in there and just keep it nice and flexible and functioning. But when you eat hydrogenated foods, the hydrogenated oil molecule fits right into there, just like a key into a lock, except there's a problem. It actually doesn't work as the little transmission that it should work. And so it essentially, it's like putting a banana in your gas tank or like pouring super glue into your gas tank. fills it up, it fits perfectly, but now it doesn't work properly. So when you're talking about hydrogenated oils, you're not just talking about a not good for you oil. You're talking about, because at least if you're eating lard, if you're eating, I don't know, bacon fat or beef fat or heavy cream, it's not good for you. But at least when those little molecules go clicking into your nervous system, they're clicking in and not breaking it. But when you have hydrogenated oils, you're clicking it in there and making it not function properly. So they've actually linked the consumption of hydrogenated oils with all kinds of neurodegenerative disorders. Over time, this can really build up and be a huge problem. And it's like eating plastic. It's not really oil. It looks like oil, seems like oil, tastes like oil, but it operates as a plastic in your body. Not a good thing. So this is what we're seeing in example after example. There's a difference between unhealthy food and toxic food. And Europe seems to know the difference. We don't seem to have figured that out here, or maybe the powers that be have, but they don't care. All right, stay tuned.
Is your email box overrun with spam? With a StartMail account, you'll never have to give your real email address to a stranger again. Online shopping, newsletter subscriptions, getting that 30% off coupon, they all need your email address. But with StartMail, you can invent new addresses or aliases linked to your inbox behind the scenes and give those out to people while keeping your real address hidden. It's just one more protection from StartMail.com.
Red alert, Yahoo users. You've fallen in a trap that could ruin your life if you keep using Yahoo.
You consent to sharing all data in your email account with our AI providers, and you grant us a perpetual license to use, display, publish, and publicly distribute your content in any media known now or in the future, and to let other users access and distribute it as well.
Yikes. It's time to switch to StartMail, the only email that's AI-free and private by design. StartMail.com. Use promo code JD.
I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. I knew you. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Before you were born, I set you apart. I set you apart. Don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you. Don't be afraid of the people, for I will protect you. I have put my words in your mouth. I have put my words in your mouth. Look, what do you see? I see a branch from an almond tree. Good eyes, I'm sticking with you. I'll make every word I give you come true. Today I've made you strong, like a fortified city. Today I've made you strong.
The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. Abounding in steadfast love.
So God made food to be perfect. He really did. He did a great job. It's amazing how well the human body functions on the carbohydrates, the fats, the minerals, the vitamins, the protein, all the things that God put into our food in its natural form. It's just good for us, and we did pretty well on it. Now, everything has been modified. And there, if you go to the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., they've got, I don't know if it's a rotating display or if it's permanent, there's a whole section in like a whole wing in which they show the evolution, I suppose, if you want to call it that, of the 20th century snack food. And they show how Americans went from not snacking at all. The concept of a snack was not even a concept. It was invented in order to sell products. So they show you all of the marketing. They show you all of the advertisements. They show you the happy families sitting around eating their frozen dinners. They show you all of the way this came about. And I would, I'd love to actually go back there and take a bunch of pictures and try to see if I can piece it together, because in my mind I have this history. Everything from the cornflakes and the commercials and the concept of advertising food and snack foods and linking foods in kids' minds with toys and games and fun and cartoons and using cartoons to sell food. And none of this food is good for us. It's all really, really, really bad for us. Okay, so I'm not going to get to everything this hour, but I'm going to do my level best to get as far as I can. All right, I want to read you. I was talking about the products that have been banned in Europe. This article is from The Guardian. Banned bread. Now, bread is like the staple of life, right? We're told it's the staple of life. Jesus broke bread and said, "This is my body. Remember me every time you eat this." So bread is the staff of life. I've heard it referred to this. It is the bread basket of America. Bread is bread is bread. Bread is kind of symbolic of our fundamental food. And yet the bread in America is poisonous, toxic. All right, let me read this. China, Brazil, and members of the European Union have weighed the potential risks and outlawed many of the chemicals found in U.S. loaves of bread. Okay. Give us this day our daily foam expander. I'm reading from The Guardian. It may sound odd, but in America, your loaf of bread can contain ingredients with industrial applications, additives that also appear in things like yoga mats, pesticides, hair straighteners, explosives, and petroleum products. Some of these chemicals, used as optional whiteners, dough conditioners, and rising agents, may be harmful to human health. Potassium bromate, for example, a potential oxidizer that helps bread rise, has been linked to kidney and thyroid cancer in rodents. Azodicarbonamide, ACA, is a chemical that forms bubbles in foams and plastics like vinyl. It is used to bleach and leaven dough, but when baked, it too has been linked to cancer in animals. Other countries, including China, hello China, Brazil, and members of the European Union have decided to outlaw potassium bromate in food. Now, why did I say China like that? Because China is known to have some of the worst food safety on planet Earth. Really awful. And yet, even they have outlawed stuff that America's like, yeah, go ahead, throw it in there. Go ahead, throw it in there. We don't mind if people get sick. I don't know. India banned it in 2016. The UK has forbidden it since 1990. Azodicarbonamide has been banned for consumption by the European Union for over a decade. But despite petitions from food advocacy groups dating back decades, the FDA still considers these to be generally recognized as safe to eat, even though the experts disagree. The system for ensuring that ingredients added to food are safe, that system is broken, said the senior scientist at the Center for Science in the Public Interest. All right. And we'll see if we can get some. I'm working very hard to try to figure out how to get guests on Zoom, on YouTube, and also onto the radio. So we're working to move those moving parts. But I have a ton of guests in the backlog that we're going to be bringing on. And this topic is one of the ones that I want to get some experts on. All right. This has spurred consumers to take matters into their own hands. There is a popular blog by Vana Hari. We'll see if we can get her on foodbabe.com. Numerous chains, including Subway, Wendy's, McDonald's, and White Castle, dumped azodicarbonamide in 2014. All right, that's just one. That's literally just one. Arby's has it in its croissants, French breadsticks, and sourdough bread. Pillsbury includes it in its tubes of breadstick dough. You know, those ones that pop open and you put it down. And just this list goes on and on and on. Okay, so that's just one of the ingredients. The white flour, the white bread that we just eat contains poison, just like the hydrogenated vegetable oils I was telling you about. Poison, not just unhealthy, not just white bread, don't eat it because they took the wheat germ out and it doesn't have all the nutrients and the vitamins and it doesn't have any fiber. Okay, well, that's called unhealthy. This other stuff is called toxic. See the difference? One of them, you could, I suppose if you just sat around and ate honey all day long from morning until night, it wouldn't be toxic, but it wouldn't be healthy. But if you sat around and ate this stuff all day, it would not only be unhealthy, it would poison you. It would be destroying your body, all right? Destroying your kidneys, destroying your liver, destroying your brain. It would be hurting you, destroying your pancreas, right? There's a difference between unhealthy and toxic. And that seems to be a distinction that we have not made in this country that we need to make. Okay, moving on to my next story here. This one is disgusting. Food from a 3D printer. This is meat from a 3D printer, bioengineered meat, this cellular meat. It has been FDA. I can't believe I'm reading this. I can't believe I'm reading it, but I am. Here you go. U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Human food made with cultured animal cells. The ability, I'm reading from the FDA. This is literally, this is not the Environmental Working Group. These are not critics. This is the FDA who has approved this. The ability to take a small number of cells from living animals and grow them in a controlled environment to create food made from cultured animal cells is an emerging area of food science. Advances in cell culture technology are enabling food developers to use cells obtained from livestock, poultry, seafood, and other animals in the production of food. Okay, yuck. This is so gross. I have pictures of it. It's just stomach-churningly disgusting. All right. Manufacturers are working on scaling up their processes to consistently produce amounts large enough to be competitively priced. As these products come closer to market, the FDA is coordinating closely with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service, so glad they're looking out for us, which shares jurisdiction over these human food products for certain animal species to make sure they're safe and accurately labeled. Both agencies are working with manufacturers to ensure these products meet applicable FDA and USDA food safety requirements. What does that mean, working together with them? Hey, let me read that again. Both agencies are working with manufacturers. That's all I need to know. That's all we really need to know. They're working with manufacturers. Why are they working with manufacturers? Because they're trying to get through all the regulatory hurdles to bring this stuff into the supermarket where we will eat it. Now, one of the things you need to be on the lookout for, have you ever heard the phrase that says, you don't want to know what goes into sausage, or, don't want to know how sausage is made? Or making legislation is like making sausage. What is sausage? If you think about it, it's a case, and it can be nicely browned and crisped and smell really good and has really good juices coming out of it. But what is inside of the case? That's the big question. Usually it is the leftover, stuff that you can't use for anything else. And you couldn't make, those pieces that you shaved off the bone, those pieces you swept up off the floor, those pieces, whatever. You couldn't really serve them unless you ground them up, added some spices and some salt and maybe some MSG, and then put them in a nice casing and then cooked it. Well, that's what they're doing with this bioengineered food. The food is produced in a petri dish. There's actually a picture of it here that's just turning my stomach, but it is fibers that are, they take cells, they put them, they quote unquote feed them with the things that feed our bodies, right? Glucose and nutrients and all the stuff that flows through our bloodstream to feed our actual tissues and cells. They flow that stuff through there. They grow these cells. They have the strands expand. The cells, divide and multiply and divide and multiply, and they form them into these strands. And when they get a big chunk of it, then they take that big chunk and then they mix it with other ingredients, and then they put it into a casing, and then they fry it up. They cook it up. They put it on the grill, and they've done taste tests with these things. And apparently it tastes really great. Tastes good. Yuck. I don't want this to taste good. I want it to taste horrible because I want to be able to know where it's there. There's a reason why natural gas has a scent added to it. And the reason is that before they added the scent to natural gas, which naturally has pretty much no scent, then people were dying. It would just be filling their house, and they'd just be walking around breathing natural gas until it took over all the oxygen, was sucked out of the room, and people died. So there's a reason why if you leave the gas on your stove and it's not lit, you'll smell that really nasty smell. That is a specific man-made chemical that was added to natural gas, so you'd know it when it was there. And if you smelled that smell, you would immediately pay attention, because it meant that a highly flammable gas was filling your environment, and you needed to immediately get to the source and shut it off. That's what I want in this food. I want this to literally have like the natural gas smell added as a flavor. Ew. All right. Yuck. I'm going to try not to be sick. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. Oh, Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. For I've ransomed you, I've called you by name. You are mine, you are mine. Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. Oh, Israel, the one who formed you says, don't be afraid. For I've ransomed you, I've called you by name. You are mine, you are mine. When you go through deep waters, I'll be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned out. The flames won't consume you. For I am the Lord, your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. For I am the Lord, your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. We don't need to write to you about the importance of loving each other. For God Himself has taught you how to love one another. Indeed, you already show your love for all the believers throughout the world, throughout. Even so, dear brothers and sisters, we urge you to love even more and more. Make it your goal to live a quiet life, minding your own business and working with your hands. Oh, oh.
All right, so the phrase you want to look for right now, hopefully, is the phrase cell cultured or cell cultivated. That way you will know that this is disgusting meat grown in a laboratory. I'm going to read to you from the FDA's page website. And by the way, if you go to my chat room at Katherine-Albrecht.com, I posted the FDA report on there, and you can click it up and read with equal glee what I'm reading. All right, the science of making food with cultured animal cells. There's a long history of scientific advances in biology, biochemistry, and engineering that have led to the innovations enabling the growth of animal cells outside of the animal itself. Now, you may recall probably a week or so ago, I did a show on ecto or exogestation, the idea of actually doing the same thing with a human fetus, growing babies in artificial wombs outside the body. So what biologists are now looking to do in laboratories is to take the processes that are part of life, which God created on this planet, and find a way to put them under human control in sterile, white, brightly lit laboratories so that babies will no longer be raised or come into existence into the world hearing the sound of their mother's heartbeat and the feel of their mother's warm body surrounding them, but they will just come into the world in laboratories in, yuck. Same is true for our meat. Now, this is being promoted. This is blowing my mind, but this is being promoted as a good thing. It's a wonderful thing because all of those vegetarians out there, all those vegans who don't want to eat meat products will be able to eat meat again. You can actually have one of those grilled sausages I was just talking about with all of its sizzle and all of its grease and flavor and meatiness, and because it's actually coming from the tissue that creates meat, but no animal had to die. And there is one pig that they took some of these cells from that they are showing he's alive and well. Look, here's the pig. You're eating the bacon, you're eating the sausage, you're eating the ham that came from this animal. But look, he's alive and well. He's doing great. So you vegetarians and vegans, dig in, because you can have meat again. You don't have to worry about killing animals. So your ethical concerns are 100% resolved. Now, I don't know about you. My ethical concerns, well, my ethical radar is just clanging at a top volume right now. This isn't ethical. This is disgusting. This is really not good. All right, let me read on. The complex process can be broadly summarized in a few steps, says the FDA. Number one, manufacturers typically start with a small sample of cells from the tissue of an animal, a process that does not require harm to or death of the animal. Some cells from the sample are selected, screened, and grown to make a, quote, bank of cells to store for later use. Step two, there's 4 steps here. A small number of cells are taken from the cell bank and placed in a tightly controlled and monitored environment, typically sterile, sealed vessels of increasing size that support growth and cellular multiplication by supplying appropriate nutrients and other factors. Step 3, after the cells have multiplied many times over into billions or trillions of cells, additional substances such as protein growth factors or new surfaces for the cells to attach to, or additional nutrients are added to the controlled environment to enable the cells to differentiate into various cell types and to assume the characteristics of muscle, fat, or connective tissue cells. Step 4, once the cells have differentiated into the desired type, the cellular material can be harvested from the controlled environment. Okay, what? And prepared using conventional food processing and packaging methods. Ah, there you go. Okay, so there are 4 more sections here. That is the that's the science of doing it, science of making food with cultured animal cells. Next one, regulatory approach for human food made from cultured animal cells in the U.S. By the way, they haven't even done this for animals. They haven't even made dog food this way. They haven't made cat food. They have not made fish food. They've made nothing this way. No animal, no human, no nobody has ever tried to eat this and see how they do. They're just throwing it out on the market. What the heck? Looks the same to us. Go for it. Imports of human food made from cultured animal cells. That's another section. Human food made with cultured cultured animal cells inventory, and finally, FDA announcements, meetings, and webinars. Okay, now I'm gonna just click to this inventory. This is so gross. This is so gross. So it tells you the steps. If you want to make this, if you want to put this on the market, here's what you got to do. You got to just describe it. You have to get a file number issued to you by the FDA for food, no less. The FDA is issuing you a file number. You have a final submission explaining your basis for concluding that it's safe for use as human food. Who's deciding that? You are. The manufacturer. Well, not you. You're not going to do this, but the company making it. I certify that this is safe. My laboratory, in which I did this thing, is perfectly safe. It's good. This won't hurt anybody. I certified in my letter to you, FDA. Okay. And then what does the FDA do? They send a letter in response on completion of the pre-market consultation. And then they issue a scientific memo that documents the FDA's evaluation of the sponsor's final submission. And then you're good to go. Put it out there. This has already been sold in San Francisco. There are cultured meatballs available. They were only available for one day. The company went to San Francisco to a fancy store up there, because this is considered like the creme de la creme of fanciness. And they actually had one of those little, things where they've got the little hot plate and they've got the lady there and she's cooking it up and giving you samples on a toothpick. And you could actually buy 8 meatballs made from this cultured sludge for $13.99. One day only. It was a special thing. You better rush in and get it now. And journalists ate it. They all gave it a resounding thumbs up. Tastes good and it's ethical and no animals have to die. And this is the great new wave. All right, we're coming to the end of the show. I ran out of time to tell you about the regulatory attempts to stop this. I can tell you about that tomorrow, but let me see if I can get to some of it here. No-kill meat grown from animal cells is now approved for sale in the U.S. Oh. Good Meat, the company is called Good Meat, a division of a company called Eat Just, announced it has received approval from the USDA for its first poultry product, cultivated chicken grown directly from animal cells, to be sold in the U.S. This announcement says we're now able to produce and sell cultivated meat in the U.S. It's a major moment for our company, the industry, and the food system. Good Meat already sells its cultivated cell-cultured chicken in Singapore. In 2020, Singapore became the first country to allow commercial sales of cultivated meat. Oh, yuck. All right, let me move on here. Okay, I think I have time for this. Campbell's soup. This made me sick. This is a leaked audio. The guy who leaked it has been fired. Campbell's soup executive rants about bioengineered meat and says it, quote, came from a 3D printer. If you're eating Campbell's soup, stop. Those little chunks of meat in there, who even knows where the heck they're coming from? A former Campbell Soup Company employee secretly recorded one of the company's executives in a bewildering, expletive-laden, over an hour-long rant. Here's what he said. We have blank, that's a 4-letter word, starts with an S. For blanking poor people, that word starts with an F. Campbell Vice President and Chief Information Officer Martin Bally seethed in the recording as quoted by Detroit-based news station WDIV. Who buys our blank? I don't buy Campbell's products barely anymore. It's not healthy. Now I know what the blank is in it. Bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer, he added. He also made derogatory comments about Indian employees, calling them, quote, idiots. The worker, Robert Garza, has since sued his former employer for wrongfully terminating him in January after he raised this issue with his manager. He was hired remotely as a cybersecurity analyst in 2024. The news spread like wildfire on the internet, catching the attention of Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer, who tweeted that the laws in that state ban lab-grown meat. Okay, now that leads me to my next thing. So Campbell's, ew, yuck. They are banning this. Mississippi has passed a bill banning lab-grown meat. 3 states have passed, I think it's at least 3 now. 3 states have passed it. In Mississippi, it is now illegal. This happened, what's the date on this? Earlier this year. makes it illegal for anyone to manufacture this kind of meat in the state. Makes it illegal for them to sell it or distribute it. So Mississippi, what are my other states? Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi, have banned this. Not only can you not sell it there, but you can't make it there. All right, I'm going to do a part 2 on this tomorrow because I have a whole lot more to say. But in the meantime, don't buy anything that says cellular cultured meat. Really avoid it like the plague. And think twice about sausages and meatballs and anything that looks ground up or minced. And make sure that your meat looks like meat. Katherine Albrecht here, talking about food safety, and we'll do part 2 tomorrow. I'll see you then. Thanks for listening.